In this video, we're going to take a look at section 1.10, solving equations. So a review of a procedure for solving the equation is, remember to first, step 1, remove the grouping symbols using distributive law. Number 2, combine any like terms on each side, and that's also after step 3. Number 3, perform the same operations on both sides until x equals solution is obtained if we're solving for x. Check the solution in the original equation to make sure that you're right. So solving equations means we want to make sure, let's take a look at our first example. We have an equation x minus 7 equals 3x minus parentheses 6x minus 8. What we want is to be able to find the value for x, or multiple values, if that's the case, that make our left-hand side and right-hand side true. So the steps for solving is we want to isolate x. Our goal is to make sure we have x by itself equal to a value that's going to work in that equation for x. In this case, we have one solution. So step 1 is to remove parentheses. So that means we've distributed the negative. Think of the negative in the front as a -1. -1 times 6x is -6x. Negative times -8 is +8. Then combine like terms, if you have any. In this case, 3x minus 6x are like terms. So 3x minus 6x is a -3x. Then we want to get all of your x's on one side and all of your numbers on the other. So we are adding 3x to both sides as our next step. So I'm going to add a 3x here, add 3x here, and that's where we came up with 4x minus 7 equals 8. Then add 7 to both sides. We end up with 4x equals 15. Then divide both sides by 4. X is equal to 15/4. So the last part, after you get an answer, check it in the original equation. So that means go all the way back up to the top, substitute 15/4 for your x value, I'll take it out of the rainbow pen, sorry about that. And then when you do the arithmetic here, you should end up with the left-hand side and the right-hand side being equal. So that's what we mean by check. So we're going to take a look at some examples, like homework examples that we'll have. The first one, problem number 5. We have 3x minus 7 divided by 2 is equal to -8. We don't have parentheses, but it would be nice to get rid of this fraction. So if you have a single fraction, multiply both sides by the common denominator. Or, in this case, multiply both sides by 2. So we're going to take 2 times 3x minus 7 over 2, and take 2 times the -8. Notice I put these in parentheses to make sure that we don't confuse our operations. The 2's will cancel because 2 over 1 cancels with 2. We end up with 3x minus 7 is equal to -16. Add 7 to both sides. We end up with 3x is equal to -16 plus 7 is a -9. Divide both sides by 3. And we end up with x is equal to -3. So remember to always check. Let's see if it works. In the original equation, 3 times -3 minus 7 divided by 2, what we want to know is, does that equal -8? So 3 times -3 is -9, plus -7 is -16 divided by 2. Does that equal -8? Yes. So I'm confident that my solution is correct. Okay. Next, we have another equation. This one has just a few steps. We have 6x minus 10 is equal to 14. Our goal is to isolate the x. So first thing we're going to do is add 10 to both sides. So we have 6x minus 10 equals 14. Add 10 to each side. I end up with 6x is equal to 24. Last step, divide both sides by 6. 24 divided by 6 is 4. Double check and make sure it works. 6 times 4 minus 10, does that equal 14? 24 minus 10 is 14, yes. Our answer works. Next equation has a few more steps. So we're going to solve, this time we do need to use distributive property in our first step in solving equations. So we have, let me move this up a little bit, negative 2y plus 8 is equal to, distribute the negative 2, remember to distribute the negative as well. Negative 2 times 2 is a negative 4y, negative 2 times positive 2 minus 4. Add like terms, we don't have any. Next step is to move things back and forth across the equal sign by adding and subtracting. We want all of our variables on one side, all of our numbers on the other. So I'm going to add 4y to each side. We end up with negative 2 plus 4 is a positive 2y plus 8 is equal to negative 4. Next step, subtract 8 from each side. I end up with, I'm going to go ahead and continue it up here, 2y is equal to negative 12. Divide both sides by 2. And we end up with y is equal to negative 6. Then I'll leave it up to you to go ahead and check and make sure that we're correct. All right, next example. Same steps. We've got to distribute our negative 2 first. Okay, actually, why don't we pause the video, try it, and then show the solution after you try. So I'm going to multiply that negative 2 through. I end up with negative 2 times positive 4 is a negative 8x. Negative 2 times negative 2 is plus 4 is equal to 4x. Now I want to make sure all of my variables are on one side, x is on one side. This time it looks like it would be less steps to add 8x to both sides. I end up with these canceling. 4 is equal to 4 plus 8 is 12x, adding like terms. Now to get x by itself, divide both sides by 12. And I end up with x is equal to 4 divided by 12 is a fraction. We can reduce that. 4 goes into 4 and 12. That reduces to x is equal to 1/3. All right, last example. We have find the rate v in kilometers per hour at which a polluted stream is flowing. This is our equation. Find v. So this one is a little bit more complicated, only because we've got decimals, but the problem solving steps are the same. So multiply using distributive property 16 times 5.4 plus 16 times v equals 24 times 5.4 minus 24 times v. Now we need to do a little bit of arithmetic. Let me on the calculator, take 16 times 5.4. We get 86.4 plus 16v equals 24 times 5.4, 129.6 minus 24v. Okay, now we want to get our variables on one side. I'm going to go ahead and add 24v to both sides. And then maybe at the same time, no, I'll just do that step. Okay, so I get 86.4 plus 24 plus 16 is what, 40? V is equal to 129.6, and these cancel. So we've got our V on one side, our expression. Next step, we want to get our values, 86.4, on the other side by subtracting. These cancel. We end up with, and put it over here, 40V is equal to, oops, that looks like 46. Calculator again. 43.2. Last step to isolate the V, divide both sides by 40, and V is equal to, we go ahead and put it in the calculator, 43.2 divided by 40 is 1.08. Now this says type an integer or decimal rounded to 1 decimal place is needed. Our exact answer has a 1.08, so if you round that to 1 place, V is going to be approximately 1.1.